The full episode is now available on Patreon and YouTube memberships. Please see the link in the description for more details.
And we are back to talk about some of the latest stuff happening in the news. And of course, we have to talk about the latest from House of the Dragon. We got some interesting images, as well as the showrunner interview. And a little on later, we'll talk about the boys and maybe a few
Yes.
other things. And yeah, I don't know where we should start first. The dumb quote I think the showrunners made, or the new images.
Okay, let's hear about the dumb quote. I've seen the pictures. I've not heard about this dumb quote. I'm learning about this for the first time.
So, I personally think it's a dumb quote because I would hesitate to say this because there are people who care about this stuff. You and I don't.
Right.
But the quote is basically from Ryan Condal, one of the showrunners, and he says, "It was very important for Miguel and I to create a show that was not another bunch of white people on screen. We wanted to find a way to put diversity in the show, but we didn't want to do it in a way that felt like it was an afterthought or worse, tokenism." They also go on to tell us that they had the original idea that the Velaryons came to Westeros from the west, which
The
that
West.
that is a little, yeah, that's a interesting piece of they toyed with that idea, but I think they ultimately went with what's in the books.
Okay.
The reason I say this is a dumb quote is because you can you and I don't care. To the audience, I think the audience at large knows this about you and me. You and I are not grifters. We
Yeah.
say what we mean. These are our opinions. We are not afraid to lose. Clearly, from your live streams with your political views and shit, like clearly, you and I are not afraid to lose viewers over what we believe.
Right.
So,
We're not pandering to anyone, right? We're not.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're not telling
not
anybody. We're not telling anybody what they want to hear. We're not trying. We're just saying our honest to God beliefs in life, and then you can crucify us afterwards.
Right, exactly. And I have to say this. It's no secret that the last two seasons of Game of Thrones were absolutely terrible, and it's also no secret that HBO has been trying to push more diverse content out. You know, like whether it's a Watchmen, Lovecraft Country, and I guess at one point they even plan to make a show called Confederate with the Game of Thrones showrunners Dave and Dan. And I think I speak for both of us when I say we don't care that they made the character black or if they try
Right.
to diversify the cast. It really doesn't matter. What I care about is this quote here of them saying the quiet part out loud. It's dumb, and I'll tell you why. People knew what you were trying to do. No matter how many times the other channels tried to mental gymnastics this guy as possibly being black or whatever, he wasn't in the books, and that's what people care about. The source material. We're coming off the heels of one of the best shows in television history having one of the worst seasons ever. And it's still in people's minds to the point where it's the bad ending, the last two seasons and the bad ending is literally part of the popular culture now. It's ridiculous, but it's true. And as such, you guys are making a prequel to that. And not only is that going to be difficult, but you'll be like traversing a minefield here. And your job as showrunner is to not only make the show, but also to instill confidence in people about the product when it's time to make, the media runs. Hype up the audience and like reassure everyone that, hey, this is going to be good, don't worry. But coming out and saying that it was very important to create a show that was not another bunch of white people on screen does not do that. And of course, the usual grifters on the platform, they're going to use this as an opportunity to rip on the show by calling it woke or some shit. And, I know people love to say that any publicity is good publicity, but I don't know. Once again, people are going to be more cautious with this, especially after the last
Right.
two seasons of Thrones, and that does matter.
Now, when you say, and I want to make it clear about what diversity is. Diversity to a executive is putting as many different people on screen to appeal to the largest demographic of viewers. I don't I want to make it clear that we don't believe there's any sort of woke conspiracy out there or anything like that. These people aren't a bunch of they're not doing it for political reasons. They're doing it for money reasons. They're trying to reach out to the most audience as possible by representing, the audience on screen. if there is more money in having less diversity, they would have less diversity. Like that's just the way it goes. They do whatever produces the most money, like this. And
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because this isn't HBO executives. This is the showrunners themselves saying this unnecessarily. Obviously, the news sites are gonna, inquire about the character change with the usual clicks and all that, but he didn't have to say this out loud. And even if that was their agenda to do that,
Yeah.
what he should have said instead was, "Yeah, I know that in the books the character is white, but when Steve Toussaint auditioned for us, he was such a good actor that we gave him the part. Boom, done." That instills way more confidence in not only the actor to portray the character well, but also like hype us up for the show at the same time. Because let's be honest, a lot of the viewers and the fandom at large, they love the material, but they don't really care about diversity. And that doesn't mean they're racist, they just came to be entertained and that's it. Right? They want the best actor for the part. That's it.
Yeah.
And now the spotlight is on this one specific topic when it shouldn't be. And quite frankly, I also kind of feel bad for the actors because it's a little rude to imply that they were likely hired because of this one thing.
Yeah. So first off, actors are so it's such a competitive industry that any actor that gets hired, period, is just like, oh, thank goodness I got a job.
Yeah, but these are people with pride and egos.
No, I don't think they have that much pride. I think I think when you're an actor and you're like, oh my God, I got a role, thank fucking God, I'm not starving right now. Like it's like acting is a brutal industry, where there's so many starving actors, and so I don't think they give a shit, and people are pretty good at. Even if they did give a shit, like at one time, like people are pretty good at mental gymnastics to make what's economically beneficial to them in their morally aligned with themselves. Like people are very good at that shit. The way I see it though is, and this is the weird thing about House of the Dragon, is I think that having Corlys Velaryon be black, I think it makes a better story. I honest to God do believe that. I don't think that was their intention. I think they stumbled into a more interesting story with a black Corlys without realizing it. And I hope that somebody realized it and wrote a good story around it. But like the fact that the Velaryons are a lower house to the Targaryens, who did all of the fucking work for the Targaryens. Like they're the ones that were established on those islands before the Targaryens came around. And they're the ones that had their fleet and had their army like bring over Aegon. Like Aegon just was handed a dragon and then just like came over and conquered. Like the idea that like it was on the backs of Velaryon labor because they're a lower non-dragon riding house, a lesser house. I think that would have made a really cool kind of story, as a reflection of our society, where America being built on the backs of black people. They could have a really cool parallel there, where like the Targaryen Empire is built on the backs of the Velaryons, and like Corlys Velaryon just like he'll never really be part of the Targaryen family. No matter what he does, because he's a Velaryon, but it's coded because he's black, just in the same way that many black people feel like they'll never really be part of upper class white society or whatever. They always feel like they're outsiders. There's really cool things they could do. I mean, the show isn't out yet. Maybe they figured that shit out and like there's going to be something cool. But I do think they just kind of stumbled into a better plot, by myself, but I don't know. What do you think?